Hello. First, I wanted to thank everyone for attending my session today. I am truly grateful to be able to talk about this discussion with you fine group of people. So the title of my presentation today is House Flipping: A Tale of Water Damage and Mold Growth. This topic is important because of the industry that you're in. It is very important that you assess the water damage because there is a potential for mold growth when you decide to flip these homes. So I don't want you to ignore it because there are long and short term implications of being exposed to mold. So you definitely want to pay attention to that as you continue the work that you do in the community. So just a brief presentation outline. So we'll talk a little bit about me. We'll talk about why removing mold is important. We'll talk about just some of the nerdy definitions of mold and how it transfers, the health effects of it, prolonged impact of having flood and water damage in homes and buildings. We'll look at how the moisture actually gets in the home, and we'll talk about whether or not the pros and cons of hiring a contractor or taking on that task and doing it yourself. If you want to save money. Excuse me. And then we'll look at, the safetiness of it, how to remove the product, how you should be dressed. Next, we'll talk about the remediation steps to removing mold. And then we'll look at some assessments of dampness and mold assessments tool that the professionals in the community use. And then we'll do some Q&A, questions and concerns, and then I'll share my contact information with you all at the end. So a little bit about myself. My name is Marcia Skullark, and I'm an occupational health specialist at the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. I've been with the agency for 3 years, and I've conducted several presentations similar to this one, but I can truly tell you that I've learned a lot as I prep for this presentation, and I am excited about sharing that information with you. So that nerdy stuff that I was talking about. So molds are they're microorganisms that exist both indoors and outdoors. They can cause fungal allergic reactions and can worsen respiratory infections like bronchitis and asthma and pneumonia. So it's best that those persons who may suffer from those chronic illnesses avoid moldy areas. So mold has been around for centuries. I was reading some material that talked about how it was even talked about in biblical days, and I thought that was pretty cool that it's been around that long. It's like you can't kill it. It can be easily transported indoors through people, our little furry buddies, it's on our clothes, open windows, and doors. So it's definitely hard to contain if you don't know how to properly do so. So mold and moisture. Mold grows where there is water and the spores spread within 1 to 2 days. You can find mold in carpeting, ceilings, and walls. It can also grow in dust, paints, insulation, fabric, various types of fabric, woods and stuff like that, and also in your heating and AC units. So in addition to what I have on the slide, the poor kid getting his asthma treatment. So you definitely want to have even if your kid didn't have asthma, it's just best to keep your family and friends away from sites like this. Um, so mold can cause allergic reactions such as red, watery, itchy eyes, just any typical allergic reaction that we all know about. Stuffy nose, sore throat. Mold contamination can even cause skin rash and asthma symptoms in sensitized persons with asthma. And depending on a person's overall health condition, mold may cause lung infections for individuals with already compromised immune systems, such as someone with lung cancer. That definitely wouldn't be a good idea to have them buying a home that has a mold infestation. So that's why it's important to learn about this early on so you can protect your clients and your potential homes that you're looking at buying and flipping. Um, So the next slide talks about, according to the CDC, there is limited evidence of a connection between exposure to damp indoor environments, meaning that there's not a lot of data out there connecting it to dyspnea, like it's shortness of breath or information showing that it actually causes asthma development. But we know that people with asthma are very sensitive to mold. Um, Persons with allergies to mold also have allergies to tree pollen, dust, and grass, and I'm a witness to that. I too have seasonal allergies, and I make sure I look at the Weather Channel app to know what's out there blooming, to know what type of medications I need to take to help myself get through that particular season. So if there's some amount of water damage and it hasn't been assessed or eliminated and dried within a day or two, more than likely the home will have mold growth. So that's why it's important. So even though it may be dry, so you say for instance you're touring a home and you see a big water stain in the ceiling and it's dry, it's a sunny day, but yet you have to think about what's on the other side of that. Has it spread in the ceiling? Has it spread throughout the home? Is it in the carpeting? So that's why it's so important to have an expert come out there and clean up that, or even replace it if that's the case for a ceiling that's easily replaceable. Well, not a ceiling, I mean the roof. But the ceiling, you can take the drywall out and stuff. You just have to do what you have to do if you want to purchase that home and sell it. It would be in your best interest to do so. So prolonged damp conditions. So the implications of this is that when you have moisture on some of these building materials, there are chemical reactions that take place that can cause the structural railings to corrode, which in turn weaken the structure. So your metal roofing can corrode and adhesives fail. Paint gets damaged. Your hardwood floors will start swelling and it'll get a musty scent and rot. So you definitely don't want to ruin those nice hardwood floors. And you want to go ahead and replace them if that's the case. So just talking about how mold spreads. So bacteria, pests will quickly spread on building material and the HVAC systems as well. Your water soluble material like the gypsum board needs to be replaced if you do see some moisture on there. If you can't get it dry within 1 or 2 days, it definitely needs to be replaced. Again, here's just some examples, some pictures I want to show you. So we'll just do it's clockwise. So we'll start with the left. So the salt deposit on the brick. I've seen this on some of those older buildings on the outside, but I guess if you see this in the inside, you need to consider if that's in your chimney area, is there a potential mold? Should we knock this wall down? You have the roof corrosion, and then you have your fun termites. No one wants a termite infestation. Cockroaches are also acclimated to moist areas. The HVAC system, like I would have been so uncomfortable removing that. So that's why it's so important to have your protective gear. And then you have your hydrofill. It's a water soluble product. So if that gets wet, it definitely needs to be replaced. So this was a gift originally. It showed up when I downloaded it to Microsoft PowerPoint. It didn't have the flashy movements because I thought it was pretty cool because it shows you how the water comes in from the sewer, the storm, and the rainwater. And that's kind of how it happens. That's how water or moisture enters in buildings and homes. So it comes from rainwater, surface water, groundwater, plumbing water, and indoor, outdoor sources of humidity. And for particular homes, like I would say more the north area that has basements, basement water problems are pretty common. If a home doesn't have a proper gutter system, rainwater can seep into the basement and cause mold damage. So it is a fixable situation, but it's very taxing on your pocket. So it's best to not ignore it and go ahead and take care of it if you run into a home that has a smelly, musty basement. Or even if it doesn't, you still want to have someone come in to test to see if there's a moisture problem and get some fans down there. So interior moisture may come from your humidifiers, your showers, and your refrigerator, your washing machines, and your hot water tank. And I have a personal story where in an apartment I was living in a couple of years ago, I woke up one night and stepped into a big foot of water where my hot water tank had burst. So as soon as I called the property manager, they came and vacuumed up the water and treated my carpet. And then we had those big fans to let it dry. So I didn't see any mold, but they acted very fast because they knew if they didn't act that I could potentially have mold in my apartment. So yeah, as I mentioned, how does it get in? So this kind of shows you that obviously there is like a crack in that window, or it looks like there's some issues on the floor too, because you see that wood being moved. So water comes in through porous material like ceiling tiles and carpet, holes in the wall or the roof or foundation. You may have leaky plumbing, damaged pipe due to wear and tear, or even just cold temperatures can make a pipe burst. So that's why it's important to look at the pipes when you're looking at these homes. As we'll have a plumber come in there. I mean, you all know this stuff, but it's just important to know the implications of water damage, even if you don't think it's a big deal and it may be small, or you think, oh, you can just paint over it. No, it can be more serious. So I want you all to be mindful of that. Okay, so you want to ask, should I do this myself? Why should I pay someone hundreds or thousands of dollars to come in and fix my basement or fix some bubbling in the hardwood? Well, depending on the nature, because like again, like I said earlier, mold can spread, and you rather be safe than sorry. So here are a few agencies listed here with their website and the number that has information, because the company hires remediation professionals who are certified to handle mold contamination. And then there are also local agencies that you can be connected to. If you look at the yellow pages, there are companies everywhere that are certified in handling situations like this. But then there's those brave people who want to clean it up themselves. So this slide kind of paves the way for what we'll talk about the next few slides. You know, this person has on the gloves. What they're holding in their hand is called a meter moisture, a moisture meter. So you see those mold spores. Well, this thing will test whether or not there is more moisture under the surface of that wall or that floor. So I think that's a really good idea. That's why you should have some professionals come in and not just trust your own, your own mindset on whether or not you should just paint over or clean that up with bleach. You definitely want to have the right tools to test the moisture. So before you enter in any moldy sites, whether you do it yourself or hire someone, you'll see professionals wearing protective gear, clothing, the long sleeves, the long pants, like the other slide had the gloves on. It's important to have latex gloves on. You want to make sure you're wearing a nose and mouth mask. OSHA recommends an N95 respirator, as well as the CDC. So you'll see how it looks on the next couple of slides. You also want to make sure you protect your eyes. The goggles should not have no ventilation holes. They can come in a full face mask or even a half face mask. So it's important. I'm glad that you all are here to learn this information, because you can't just walk in and say, "Oh, I didn't touch it." You can breathe that stuff in, and that stuff is flying around in the air. So here's an example from the CDC. This is just an infographic. You can get this and get it printed and share it with your clients. This is just an ideal of how the N95 looks. So see, this person is fully ready to tackle mold damage. So how do you remove the mold safely? Well, you can use portable generators, but be careful with those, because you can get carbon monoxide poisoning from those if not used properly. So if you walk into a situation that's been flooded, you want to make sure that the electrical sites have been dried before you plug it in, just a safety concern. I would keep all doors and windows open, the closets open, and even interior rooms, just to allow air to flow freely. Again, wear your gear. You can use fans and dehumidifiers to remove the moisture. And just make sure everything is clean before you re-enter the home. You do not want to run the risk of recontaminating the area, or even getting yourself sick. You can use detergents to clean up mold damage. You can even use bleach and ammonia, but it is highly recommended that you do not mix those products, especially bleach and ammonia. It gives off a very horrid scent. Okay, and as I mentioned, it's kind of like a recap of, you could remove any material that can't be restored and dried. I mean, there are situations where there's keepsake items, and the Smithsonian Institute has a set of guidelines for people to salvage those sentimental items, and the link is listed there below. But if it's just make sure if you can't get it clean and dry within 1 or 2 days, go ahead and just get rid of it and just start over. So make sure you have a cushion in the budget to replace building material in the event that you notice the property you're looking at has moisture damage. So there's some emergency steps you can take. Say, for instance, if you're wanting to hire someone and they can't get in until like a week, or maybe 5 days. Well, that when it comes to water damage, you want somebody in there under less than 2 days if you can. But what you could do is turn the water off. You can kind of plug the open areas in your roof or the wall. I mean, like I mentioned, you can vacuum the water like my apartment manager did when I had that burst of water from my water tank. You can even get a dehumidifier to kind of level out the air in the building or the room that you're looking at, and make sure there's no debris in the drainage systems and stuff like that. So remediation steps for removal. I got some good information from the mold and air quality professionals. They've been in existence for a long time. So the first step they suggested is assessment. So you want to go in and use a moisture meter to assess the level of moisture on the surface or on the floor of the walls. Our second step is containment. You want to properly remove the building material that has been contaminated from the home or the office, or if you or you can, if you can dry it out, great, but make sure you have something to treat it with. And say for instance you're in your restroom and there's like you see some mold on the ceiling or something. Well, you want to go ahead and before you disturb it, seal off your ventilation system because mold spores, they do spread quickly. You want to seal off your doors and just kind of rope off the area. If you're working in the area of your home or the home that you're looking at, go ahead and just seal it off because mold spores fly. So it is recommended that mold, the company the website that I use did recommend if you have a mid to large accumulation of mold, please call a professional because even if you see a little circle, if you scratch it with your gloves on and put some bleach on it, you may come back the next day or two and there may be 5 more circles. So that's just how quick this thing can work, just to kind of paint that picture. And our last step is elimination. So running a fan in the bathroom is good to prevent mold from coming back. The CDC also recommends the HEPA air purifier, and that's capital HEPA, HEPA. And so how this machine works, it traps mold particles in the air. So that's a good tool to have in the event that you're looking at something that you see some water damage. I would go ahead and invest in that purifier. Fans are good. Dryers are good as a way to level out moisture and to prevent the mold from coming back. So especially fans in your basement, that will help kind of keep that air circulating. But like I said, even if you walk into a room and it's dry or the paint is just chipped and you don't see any more damage, but you still need to check behind those walls, remove that wallpaper, and make sure there's no mold there just for your protection and to get the most bang for your buck. Okay, so I talked about so you may see this in the field. If you call a company to get a quote, you'll more likely see something like this, kind of assessing the size of it, kind of telling you where it is, just kind of summarizing what needs to be done. And this will go along with the quote. But there are many forms of this out there online. Okay, so are there any questions or concerns for me about what I've discussed? I hope that I've kind of scratched your curiosity and help you take this home and think about it, before, because I don't want you to go out there and just ignore the water damage. It's a serious matter, and I don't want anybody to get sick. So you want to be mindful of the properties that you're looking at. So we're in North Little Rock, so we're at 5301 North Shore. That's my email, and that's my office number. If you happen to call me and I'm not there at my desk, just leave me a message and I'll call you within a day or two. But emails are fine as well, and I have some business cards on that back table. Thank you, thank you, thank you again. Goodbye. The next few slides are my references.